All right, so still at State House there, we are seeing troops drawn from the three military formations marching their way there, just moments after that special prayer that has been accorded to the country's third head of state, Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki, whose body has now been transferred to a different kind of... this is actually something that, is a high-profile kind of a treatment that is given to a head of state. Of course, Regina, you can see, this didn't quite take long. Of course, just sort of like signaling that there should be quite of activities picking up at Nyayo Stadium at this particular moment. Regina.
Yes. Now as the cortege leaves the State House, Stephen, we expect maybe in the next 20-30 minutes or so, given that we're expecting the head of state there to also be at Nyayo Stadium from around 10:30, according to the statement that was made public yesterday about, the procedure of the ceremony of the state funeral that is to be held at the Nyayo Stadium. We're expecting the head of state. He's just seeing off the cortege as it leaves State House there. It's going to be, it's quite a solemn procession there, and snaking through State House Road there, through processional, down through Uhuru Highway, all the way to the Nyayo Stadium there. Quite a somber mood there. Indeed, and it has been so since Friday, even from what Kenyans have been saying, in as much as they are condoling with the family. It's quite a gap in our Kenyans' history. And I saw an interesting tweet there from a Kenyan said that if we were given an opportunity, that all the 49 million of us would give up one day to have Kibaki back with us and probably be our president once again. That was quite an interesting tweet I saw. Now the cortege is leaving State House after it was received by President Uhuru Kenyatta there, officially condoling with the family. As you can see, we are waiting to see exactly what is happening. Remember, these are full military honors that are being accorded to the late President Mwai Kibaki there. He served as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces from 2002 all the way to 2013. And having retired, he's still been accorded military honors. Information also trickling in indicates that Tanzania is being a good neighbor and is mourning with us. And President Samia Suluhu has declared 2 days of mourning there, and the flags are going to be flying half-mast there. We're waiting to see if the cortege is going to go back to the vehicle in which it rolled into State House Inn. Those are the pictures that are coming live from State House, Nairobi. Remember, this is a procedure we are all learning as we go, being that it is military ran there. I can see my guest this morning, Dr. Ogolla, yes, nodding. It's indeed run by the military there. What deviations or similarities are you seeing, Dr. Ogolla, in regard to this particular procedure at the moment?
There are some things to well mention here. You can see 3 uniforms, and that's a symbol of the 3 forces are available in this service. You can see clearly there are 3 uniforms, and that is symbolizing that the 3 forces are available for this function, giving our former head of state the military honors. The other thing you can see an occasional Land Rover. The occasional Land Rover is that Land Rover that normally the president used to arrive with in the state ceremonies. But the difference here is that occasional Land Rover just has somebody who looks like the general commander, but the head of state is not there. That's also a symbol that we are mourning, because now he is in a casket, in a hearse that is carrying his body to the ground. Those are what they're noticing. And the other things that you can be able to see here is that white seems to be so visible. You can ask yourself, why is white so visible? President Kibaki's presidential standard had white, and white was very pronounced. Of course, you can be able to tell now. You can see the occasional Land Rover there being shown, and of course, there's one that is carrying the family. which is just right behind, next to the body, that I told you the family will be given pride of place. Of course, sometimes families can choose not to take these honors, but I told you the family has the choice. There are some things which are different with the family. Like I could tell you, the state functions have got very standard way they are done. The only differences could be one, family choices that are offered they can take or not. The other things that could also be possible, for example, if I just give an example, Margaret Thatcher was offered a state funeral, and the family chose not to take this military honor and scaled it down. The family is allowed. It's not written on stone, because actually the most people to be respected here is the family. Because in as much as me and Joe maybe mourn Kibaki in a professional way, the family mourns a father, the family mourns a grandfather, the family mourns a relative. There must be given some sort of ways on how they want to mourn. Mm-hmm. So those are the only thing that makes differences, what the family chooses to do. And also you can look here that Kibaki did not write anything serious in his will. That's what I could tell now. Because if he wrote something serious in the will, it could have really confined the family on how to do this state funeral. You see, Wangari Maathai did write something that is very particular in the will, so it has to be obeyed. So even though we are giving a state funeral, we have to give these nuances that come from what the late wanted to be done. So that also comes very clearly and handy. And I told you can see that the family was also given the pride of place in State House. You could see the family of the late president being there, being close to the president. I could also see President Uhuru. How does he feel? Like Safin said before, exactly how do you feel when you announce 2 deaths and you are presiding over them? It's not just about being there in a historic moment. It's also how comes you announce two deaths. And you see this last one, he did it very fast. It was very quickly. It is my duty. He said as duty. I think he did it very fast and moved on. Mm-hmm. And I think this is something that you can feel. You could see on the face, you can see somebody who is in some very sober mood. He worked very closely with the president. He was the deputy prime minister. He was his finance minister, which means that most of the projects being executed on the strategy where he was working with the PS president here, they were more the guy executing from the budget side. Remember, if you don't sign any contract with the treasury, there's nothing you're doing, because that's where the money is. So that was his right arm that he used, and I think that to appoint somebody to be heading your treasury, that actually is your right-hand person.
All right, Dr. Ogolla. As we're still in State House there, and just to rope in Mr. Chwe, former PS, I mean, the retired President Mwai Kibaki served in this place for 2 terms, 2002, and the next term was until 2013. You had the privilege to serve in his cabinet. What do you think? His government, yes. What do you think are some of the things that the mark that he left, that even as we're looking at these pictures on the screens right now, State House, what is it that will go in history as the biggest role that Kibaki played for this country from where you sit?
Yes, from my standpoint, from what I could see while in government, number 1 was to revive the economy, which had been really battered, shall I say, and we were in the negative economic growth. Roads were in a shambles, as you recall. Institutions had collapsed when he came into office in 2002, and so on. So step 1 was to revive the economy, and this, as I mentioned earlier, had to be done, first of all, by making sure that the country is able to raise the revenue it requires, and then number 2, the different economic sectors had to be brought to their feet again, like agriculture, like manufacturing, trade, and so on. And in agriculture especially, and someone mentioned while I was seated over there, that we had to revive the milk industry. We had to revive meaning the dairy industry, had to revive the tea industry, coffee industry, and so on, and even the production of cereals. And this had to be done such as by subsidizing the farmers, making sure that fertilizers and seeds are available at affordable prices. And then once the farmers have produced their commodities, they needed to find ready market so that they could earn from the sale of their produce, so that in the end, the economic revival had a positive impact on the daily lives of the local people. So this happened. May I just give one example? In the dairy sector, farmers would have supplied their milk and it would take 6 months before they are paid. You see, but once the new KCC had been established, and the farmer would supply the milk to this marketing body, and within 5 days of the new month, he will have received his dues. And this is what then helped to transform social and economic life. There were issues like free primary education. I was out of this country during the 2020 elections, 2002.
Yeah, 2002
elections. And then I called home, and a 6-year-old said to me on phone, Kibaki is president and education is free. You know, those are just the 2 points a 6-year-old made, said to me. And so the idea of free primary education was so significant, because you couldn't have a population that is not educated. This is the worst society you can lead. It's one where people are not educated. And so this, to me, is landmark. The other thing that is landmark is the general economy, in the sense of capacity of the people to have the opportunity to invest and to realize returns from their investment. The challenge had been that it was not easy to access credit, and banks would require customers to have collateral, could have security. They didn't have. Interest rates were at 30% and so on. This frustrated entrepreneurship and so on. And so what I feel was a major transformation was to improve the financial market, so that interest rates came down, government borrowed less from the domestic market. This is what brought down in interest rates. And so entrepreneurs were able to access credit. In fact, at some point, banks began to hawk credit. Please come and take credit. When just a few years before, it was not easy to get credit from the bank. And so access to credit was one of the opportunities that enabled this country to realize social and economic transformation. Suddenly, there were businesses booming everywhere, thanks to credit. The other factor that I consider very, very critical, and I mentioned earlier, was a public service that is committed to serving citizens. And someone mentioned earlier the idea of public participation and so on. So now we had a public service that was sensitive to the needs and expectations of citizens. We now had things like customer satisfaction surveys being undertaken in all government institutions. Things like quality statement in terms of public service delivery. Things like stating clearly how long it will take for a certain between the time a client makes a request and the time the institution responds to that request. So you have to state whether it will be 5 minutes, it will be 1 month, it will be 2 weeks, and so on, and stick to those timelines. Yeah. And this helped to make sure that citizens received the quality service that they deserved and expected from public institutions.
Just to look at even your time as you served as those days they were called permanent secretaries, and it was in this season that there were a lot of reforms even in the prisons department. I mean, I just want to know that moment that stands out for you in your mind, that you took up a project or you took up an initiative and you said you wanted to do something and it was a success. How did Kibaki support his people in the